Hokage I can only draw S-rank rewards. Chapter 341-360. Chapter 342 God's Dynasty, established. What did you say? Mr. Long and everyone have the possibility of resurrection. Can Shanks and the others be resurrected too? After getting a firm answer from the Empress Hancock, Sabo and Luffy finally had smiles they hadn't seen for a long time. In the past few months, the two of them faced the endless pursuit and killing of the world government, and had to run away desperately. Once there was time, they would never rest, but would train each other. The purpose is to avenge the deceased. Where are Uncle Rayleigh and the others now? Let's go find them. Luffy can't wait to see Shanks, and now he has the strength to return the Straw Hat. Similarly, Sabo is also very excited. If Lei Luo can really revive the dead, doesn't it mean that Ace can too? The three brothers have another chance to reunite after being separated from each other at a young age. However, just as Hancock took out Rayleigh's life card, a water bomb was shot from a distance, shattering it. Finally found the two of you, and it seems that there is an unexpected joy. On the top of the mountain not far away, a group of men and women in red suits looked down at the three of Luffy below, with a sinister smile on the corners of their mouths. CP1, Rockstar. Luffy and Sabo gnashed Kiba's teeth and said the name of the Yuhi-colored free-haired man in the lead. That's right, you heard it right, it's called Rockstar. 2 years ago, Yuhi made a newcomer to the pirates. He was dressed as a pirate. Anyone who participated in the second big event will never forget how Yuhi Shanks, who came to prevent the tragedy from happening again when Luffy's faction was about to lose, was penetrated by his cronies behind him. Chest. However, even the 5 old stars did not expect that Yuhi's strength was so pervert. Even if time was short, he still turned the tide of the battle with his conqueror's haki, which could be called pervert. If it hadn't been for Lord Yim to take action in the end, I'm afraid the final result would have been the complete defeat of the world government. It can be said without controversy that, in the first major event, Kirby stood up and fought for the last few seconds without fear of life and death, changing history. In the second major event, only Clausda is qualified to recognize the person who changed history. It was also in the follow-up battle that everyone understood that this weak person who calls himself a big pirate in the eyes of the world is terrifying to the level of a general. Sabo, he gives it to me, and the rest to you. Luffy-chan, what about me? Just stay here, they're too dangerous. After the words fell, the figures of Luffy and Sabo collided with CP1 in an instant. Only Hancock was holding his forehead with his jade hand, and there was a possibility of fainting at any time. A straight man like Shang Luffy will never understand that his concern is the most dangerous attack for Hancock. Holy Land Mary Joa. The World Conference has been over for a long time, but the people of many countries are very surprised, why their kings have not returned. Only the Navy has come to their territory, and temporarily dominates everything in the name of protecting the safety of one side. There is the throne set up by the ancestors 800 years ago to build peace. Do you want to break this precious peace? Boom. Just as the little king of the unknown country finished his words, his head exploded without warning, and the mixture of brain and blood splashed on the ground, causing the kings who spoke other words to choose silence. Humph. Peace. Do you believe in this ridiculous word? This is a world where the strong eat the weak. Only we Tianlong people are the real gods. Between gods and humans, there are two kinds of beings that are destined to be unequal. Master Yimu is the king of our Tianlong people. What qualifications do you stupid mortals have to question the king of gods? The 4 of you are too fierce. Learn from the old man and do it directly. The 5 old stars sneered at the overwhelmed kings with their heads bowed in front of them, their faces filled with sarcasm. Thump. Finally, someone chose to give in, kneeling in the hall with all 5 bodies on the ground. He turned a blind eye to the disgusting mixed liquid on the ground, allowing it to stain his forehead and long hair. With the leaders kneeling, the last trace of dignity in the hearts of other kings was shattered. Now they are no longer human, but ordinary mortals, ordinary people who do everything to survive. Good, good, good. Sitting on the throne, Yimu laughed wildly. The reason why he dared to agree to Lei Luo's 3-year contract was that, apart from his absolute affirmation of his own strength, his biggest trump card was the powerhouses of the more than 170 franchise countries. If you want to ask those countries that have never joined the world government or who have withdrawn later, maybe you can still linger for a few days before. After all, they have the protection of the Revolutionary Army. But now, they have only two choices: surrender or die. Puff quack quack. Suddenly, there was a sound of a phone bug in the next room, and the long-haired 5-old star turned back to Yimu, bowed his head and saluted, then turned and left. Master 5 old stars. No, not good. Straw Hat Boy. Before the words fell, the person on the other side of the phone bug was obviously terminated suddenly, but the call that still didn't hang up made the long-haired 5 old stars still waiting quietly. Hello. Sure enough, after more than 10 seconds of silence, a young angry voice came from the phone bug again. I don't care if you are Wu Laoxing or Yi Mu. Listen to Lao Su now. Sooner or later, Lao Su will definitely beat you up. You brazen brat, who do you think you are? The long-haired 5 old stars are quite disdainful. Even if the other party killed Rockstar's terrifying existence, he did not take it to heart. A mortal is a mortal, and it is absolutely impossible to compete with God in a very poor life. Listen, I'm the man who wants to become the Pirate King, Straw Hat Luffy. Do. Looking at the phone bug that was hung up, the long-haired 5 old star just snorted. The next day, all the TV stations or newspapers were broadcasting a message. The empty throne welcomed its owner, the only God King in the world, Lord I Am. On this day, everyone in the world saw the approval of all the heads of state, and the civilians who dared to resist also deeply understood why they did not wait for the king, but only for the navy. When it arrives, the ruthless navy will take the life of anyone who protests without hesitation. Finally, the originally extremely unequal system was broken, and the world was completely covered by a brand new dynasty. Chapter 343-Find Ancient Weapons. After finishing the CP1 led by Clausda, Luffy and Sabo also showed a look of exhaustion on their faces. CP is the strongest force under the world government. Although there are few people, they are all strong among the strong. If the base is not discussed, the navy is in front of them, that is, there are a few more similar carp. Pervert only. However, what about this individual factor? The navy will always be a bad move at the level of a single round general. Hancock, let's set off now, don't let Lei Luo and the others wait too long. Facing Sabo's urging, Hancock just looked at the raw mica in Rayleigh's hand, and his brows became even tighter. According to the guidance of the life card, Rayleigh is still in the East China Sea category at this time, but his position seems to be constantly rising. That's right, the secret development place envisioned by Lei Luo is exactly the infinite land that Analu longed for, that is, the moon. You mean that they are now in a higher position above the Sky Island? Even Luffy, who has always been carefree, was somewhat surprised after hearing Hancock's explanation. Can humans really survive in that kind of place? Besides, the three of them seem to have no way to step into that taboo place for humans. Boom. Suddenly, the space in front of the three of Luffy began to vibrate faintly, and everything around them seemed to be stagnant in half. The wind did not rise, the flowers and trees stopped abruptly, and time stood still. After a while, the flowers, plants and trees resumed moving with the wind as before, but there was one more person on the island. My clone will take you to the infinite land. Lei Luo whispered, and then a dazzling golden light erupted from his body, wrapping the three of them away from here. At this time, on an unknown island on the sea, roaring artillery fire mixed with thick smoke rose up, and the ground was covered with the bodies of naval soldiers. Edward Wable, unlike your mother who died, you'd better just surrender. The person who spoke was the captain of CP2, a woman with an extremely ugly face, known as Vimalakirti, the Wicked Woman. My dearest son, in order to protect mother's safety, you must kill all these abominable navy. Behind Wabel, a small woman with sunglasses and a wrinkled face pretended to be dying, and her words were bound by love, pushing the continuation of the battle. Call out. However, at the moment when everyone was ready to take action, the Navy took the lead in rushing out a laser beam, which bypassed the layers of obstacles with great precision. Eyebrows. Mom, what's the matter with you? You, damn Navy, I'm going to kill you. At that moment, Conqueror's hockey exploded. Wabel's eyes were blinded by hatred. All he had to do was to let everyone present be buried with his deceased mother. Damn it, who did it? Vimalakirti took the lead, and the long sword in her hand blocked the big sword that came from the head. The brute force actually shocked her into pain. Anger can affect people's emotions, it can devour reason, and it can also erupt in combat power that surpasses one's past. The broadsword moved as he wanted, and while the attacking force was heavy, the coordination was quite clever. For a time, Wabel actually completely suppressed the entire CP2 organization by himself. That person, that's Lei Luo. While dodging, Vimalakirti inadvertently saw Lei Luo not far away, who was smiling and looking at all this, and instantly understood all kinds of talents and what Lei Luo meant. He wanted to sit and watch the snipe and clam fight. Hey, it's him, he killed your mother. Kill, all of you are going to die. No matter how Vimalakirti yelled, Wabel couldn't listen to him. Now, he just wants to cut all the people alive in front of him in half, so as to dispel the hatred in his heart. For this accident, Lei Luo just happened to encounter it, and it just happened so coincidentally, and the next victory was meaningless to him. At the moment, the most important thing is to go to the Seven Waters and Fishman Island to find two ancient weapons. In the face of the final decisive battle in 3 years, everyone understands the anti-sky effect that the three ancient weapons will have. Therefore, it is not only Lei Luo who has acted. The people of the world government have already secretly chosen to start. Bingchen, honestly hand over the blueprints of Pluto Bruton, or the finished product created by your ancestors, otherwise I'm not sure whether Kiki Luo and your little secretary can survive the gun. The capital of Seven Waters was occupied by the swarming navy a few months ago, and all the boatmen were in prison. The truth. It is rumored that Pluto Bruton is a super battleship, and it can wipe out a small island in the world with one shot. This is the worst battleship in history that represents power. Now, the original design drawings were destroyed by Frankie a few years ago, but according to the revelations of the young people, the iceberg has a rubbing seal, and the battleship of Hades seems to be silent somewhere. Bingchen, the current navy is no longer the representative of justice. Don't be blinded by the love of your son and daughter. What you have to do is to be worthy of the whole world. Kokolo said his last words, and resolutely chose to take the long spear from the navy's hands and buckle it at the temple of the little secretary. As the only iceberg who knew the secret of Akatsuki Hades at the time, the biggest burden was himself and this little secretary. Kokolo, who knew in his heart, did everything he could, and after knowing the life of the little secretary himself, he swallowed a gun and committed suicide. Geek. Just when Kokoro closed her eyes and was about to start her plan, a variable happened. There seemed to be something wrong with the pistol, and the trigger could not be pulled, which made her fall into despair again. Could it be that even God chose to stand on the side of the Navy? Fortunately I got it. Lei Luo, who held the gun tightly in his big hand, breathed a sigh of relief, but his expression changed suddenly. On Fishman Island, Lei Luo, who had just landed in the light dun clone, didn't have time to do anything, and the fishman dressed as a beggar suddenly fell in front of him. Lord Lei Luo, please, save Fishman Island and Bakesing. You are Shark Star, the great prince of the Dragon Palace Kingdom. The loud shouts of the two sounded one after another, but what attracted the helpless sighs of the pedestrians on the roadside turned their heads and left, as well as a large number of naval troops rushing in from a distance. As the mermaid princess Bai Xing, the Sea King Poseidon, it seems that at this moment, it is more fortunate than fortune. Chapter 345 _ Gather. In the last 3 months, how are you doing with the tasks I assigned? Sitting on the throne, Yimu played with a peculiarly shaped dagger in his hand, and asked casually to the 5 old stars who were kneeling in front of him. Since the last time he saw the person in front of him resurrecting Lu Qi by means of defying the sky, the 5 old stars who had secretly planned to take advantage of the fishermen in the final decisive battle completely dispelled the thoughts in their hearts. Im's power is unimaginable at all. All they can do is to honestly complete the task and accompany Im to complete the game. A game. A game. That's right, in Yim's mouth, his final battle with Lei Luo was a game carefully arranged for decades. Sir, report, we have successfully used the secret technique you rewarded to combine the 3 ancient weapons into one. The words of the 5 old stars fell, and there was a frenzied laughter from the throne. The 3 ancient weapons, the world only knows that they are powerful enough to destroy the world, but no one knows Akatsuki. If you want to achieve that step, there is still a crucial step, and that is to unite the 3. In the laughter that resounded through the government building, the 5 old stars all shrank their pupils. At that moment, the hazy mist covering Yimu's face slowly dissipated, revealing a beautiful face that was even more delicate than a woman, the face of a young man whose brows were somewhat similar to Lei Luo. Lo, rocks. A name that was wiped out by the world government and had been covered in dust for decades, slowly spit out from the mouth of the 5 old stars. Lord Im, who has dominated the entire world, is actually the only overlord in the sea, the most powerful pirate rocks ever. Hey, since you've seen my real face, don't blame me. Suddenly, Yimu stopped laughing, and looked at the 5 old men who had been shocked and never returned to God with a playful look in his eyes. Lord Yimu, we will never tell outsiders your true identity, please let me go. See the master. After a while, with the bodies of the 5 old stars shaking together, they knelt down towards Yimu again, and the address in their mouths also changed from adults to masters. If there is still a 7th person present at this moment, they will be stimulated by everything in front of them, and they will begin to doubt whether all the cognitions in their lives are correct. Because the eyes of the 5 old stars have all turned into the color of Yuhi the gorilla at this moment, and there is a dark Tomo slowly emerging. These are the same eyes as Lei Luo's evil eyes, and the same eyes as Yimu's eyes, 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan. 3 months, but only 120 days. During the cultivation, it will only quietly pass the fingertips, and it will come to the day before the final battle. Above the moon. Is this day finally coming? Lei Luo walked out of the room and looked at the blue planet in the distance. For this day, everyone has been waiting for a long time, because this is the last understanding for anyone. Standing on the top of the tallest building, Lei Luo looked around. There were cyan arrogance shining everywhere, and dozens of blue arrogance, which was the embodiment of the 8 inner gates. At this time, the alliance of peacekeepers has reached an unprecedented level of combat power and strength. In the history of pirates, there is no force that can compare with it, not even the qualifications to carry shoes. 108 selected underworld Saint Cloth owners represent that the 108 are at least at the level of generals. For the rest of the troops, the newly developed technological combat uniforms and weapons made from sea-building assimilation gas are still standard. Navy 6, Domineering and the 8 inner gates are the 3 most proficient skills for everyone. Looking at this super fleet that he personally trained, Lei Luo still felt a little pity. The strongest god-level holy garments in the underworld holy garments are Hades, the king of the underworld, Hypnos, the god of sleep, Danados, the god of death, and the god of 4 dreams. Just found Pluto. The rest of the god-level holy clothes did not find any relevant forging materials at all. However, these are not important, because soon I will leave this world. Peacemakers, gather. Lei Luo's voice is not too small, but it is clearly audible in everyone's ears. Gather, the leader's order. Everyone has been waiting for 3 years. In the past 3 years, they have been training hard, in order to build the era of peace in which everyone is equal and there is no exploitation and oppression. Everyone obeys the order and marches toward the Holy Land Mary Joa. Following Lei Luo's order, the moon trembled slightly, and then 10 battleships rose from the ground. Yo, it's not bad, it's made to look good. Originally, this was just a blueprint that he threw to Gage and Frankie, but Lei Luo never thought that the two of them actually built it, and it was a full 10. That's right, this is the final product of 10 fusing the Silver River flying warships and one of the ancient weapons, Pluton Bruton. At the moment in the Holy Land of Mary Joa, the 5 old stars have already led everyone, quietly waiting for the arrival of the Alliance of Peacekeepers. What's that? Tiki looked at a few azure blue dots that were constantly flashing above the 10,000-meter altitude, and said lightly. There is no need for someone to answer. As far as the current world situation is concerned, there is no need to explain too much who is coming. Everyone enters the war preparation alert mode. Wu Laoxing gave an order and silently looked at the continuously magnifying blue light in the sky. The current world government, like the Alliance of Peacemakers, has gathered many powerful beings standing at the peak. In addition, they also have a larger number of grassroots soldiers and more than 100 first and second generation peaceful reformers. I just didn't expect that the navy of the past would actually mix with the pirates to become one faction. The ant said with a sneer, if it was in the past, without the arrival of the Peacemaker Alliance, everyone present would definitely go their separate ways and start an extremely bloody melee. I just want the lightning kid who killed Ah Jin, you can do the rest. Guy snorted, he couldn't forget Lei Luo's unparalleled power, and he couldn't forget the thunderbolt figure that blew Agent into dust in the video that Titch brought back. There are so many old friends this time, I just don't know if they can survive in my hands now. The person who spoke was Shiki the Golden Lion, and now he was completely indifferent. Beside him stood the same vampire, Count Yuhi, Ryder, and a group of veterans who should have died. Great Pirate. Chapter 346-Mystery. Today's Holy Land Mary Joa is different from the past. It does not have the majesty of the past, and it has the meaning of just a fanatical chill. With the roar, hundreds of figures rushed out of the high-altitude spaceship, each with their arms crossed, staring coldly at the people below, and the leader Lei Luo even had a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Fire! Without any warning, blue light spots were continuously extracted from the surrounding air, condensed on the pitch-black steel pipes that appeared in front of the 10 spaceships, and blasted out like a heavy bombardment. This is the battleground between the two sides fighting for ultimate dominance, and no one will remind you of the start of the battle. The extremely blue light full of destructive aura is like strips of sinister earthly giant pythons, always opening its huge bloody mouth, trying to devour the entire island. The deafening roar continued, the ripples of energy continued to spread, and objects like shreds of paper spread in the air, causing Lei Luo's complexion to change suddenly. Impure world reincarnation. Where did you learn this trick? Looking at the Golden Lion, Earl Yuhi and the others who had blocked the heavy artillery, Lei Luo narrowed his eyes slightly. It seems that I am is definitely not as simple as imagined. Hey, kid, the real battlefield is only endless fighting, and no one will explain it to you. Shiji chuckled, and at that moment, the clods on the ground rushed into the sky in the shape of a lion's head, trying to tear Lei Luo into red fragments. Swish! It was too late, but it was too fast. Just at that moment, several thunder snakes suddenly rushed towards them and collided with them. Go away, this thunderbolt bastard is my prey. Seeing Analu's shot, Guy disregarded any friendship with his comrades and smashed Shiki aside with a backhand strike of Thunder 8 trigrams. At the same time, the golden sword energy slashed out from Shiji's feet, approaching Lei Luo without stopping. Alpha Raid. An emerald green sword light burst out, dissolving the golden sword chi, and jumped up to attack Shiji, who was temporarily unstable. Two idiots. Hey, smoking kid, I see, my opponent is you. Little devil, do you immortals have such a big tone? The battle between Count Yuhi and Smoke was also triggered in one breath. At this moment, there was only killing intent and tension in the air. At the moment when an ancient tree was shaken and fell to the ground by the fluctuations caused by the battle between the 6 people, the blood of the two sides was surging, and the final battle officially started. Lei Luo, who was still standing at the commanding heights, still had his arms folded over his chest. He didn't make a move, because I am, the leader of the enemy, had not yet appeared. All he had to do was wait. The shouts were like thunder, the artillery fire was like a rainstorm, and the hot blood was mixed with killing intent. Looking at the shadows of swords, lights, swords and swords without any order, as well as the corpse that appeared shortly after the war and the weapon of the lost master, turned to dust at the feet of everyone, Lei Luo understood what it is called Feng Xiaoxiaoxi and Yi Shuihen. She will not return. In the face of the enemy's angry eyes, return with a roar. Faced with a fatal blow that cannot be avoided, simply do not dodge, and be sure to pull a few enemies back before dying. In the face of the enemy army that was advancing as fiercely as a beast, there was no concession, only the sound of fighting and the blood splattered in the mouth. This is the energy that people desperately release for their own ideals, and for the peace of the world. Even if they die here, there is no regret at all. The price paid for peace is always only blood and new souls. You are all great heroes of the world. The roar sounded from Lei Luo's mouth, inspiring all the peacemakers present. The raging fighting spirit was like substance, burning invisibly in the air. The leader's affirmation proved that each of them must have a meaningful existence even if they are unknown. Let's fight with confidence, my warriors, never fear death, because I am the god of death. Lei Luo turned the conversation, and the blue flame in the palm facing the sky was like a galloping river, and it was like the axe that opened the sky by the great god Pangu. The huge Uzumaki slowly emerged, and the heroic spirits came back again. Kill. Comrades in arms are resurrected and fight side by side again, even with Yuhi in their eyes. They can never stop the peacemakers from enjoying the brotherhood in this battle, and can't stop them from giving everything for justice and peace. For a time, the peacemakers' fighting spirit exploded, turning into the purest force, feeding back everyone's beating heart. For the dawn of victory to come to the world, the 8 inner gates, all open. Kai Yuhi's arrogance roared out, this is a vision to open the door of death, and it is also the will of everyone to die. The only one who wins in the end is the alliance of peacemakers. Hihi, do you think you are the only one who can bring the dead back to life? The government building was shattered without any warning, and Yimu with a hazy face flew from it. The eyes of Yuhi, the orangutan, met Lei Luo, and there was nothing but madness. The same eyes, the same power, but a completely different way of resurrection. Mystic impure world reincarnation. A crisp snap sounded from Im's palm, and the bodies of the government troops on the ground exploded slightly, followed by endless pieces of pale white paper flying in the air, finally gathering to form dead figures one after another. Lei Luo, you should understand that the people of impure world reincarnation are immortal, and the energy in their bodies is inexhaustible. What are you fighting against me? I am laughing happily, as if he had seen the goddess of victory favoring him. The infinite resurrection of one side, the absolute immortality of the other side, these two forces that the world aspires to collide together, without any mercy, and with viciousness and decisiveness. I have an almost infinite lifespan and can splurge freely, and you control the millions of impure world reincarnation. Can you be distracted to deal with my attacks? Lei Luo's sarcasm reached Yimu's ears, an unpretentious iron sword appeared behind him. One word / activate. Boom boom boom. In the blink of an eye, the triple Rashomon appeared out of thin air at Im's place. Who the hell are you and why are you doing these tricks? Whether it was the impure world reincarnation, the triple Rashomon, or the pair of eyes that were exactly the same as his own, they were all like Im's face, making Lei Luo unpredictable. Who the hell is I, and why are there so many tricks in the Hokage world? Want to know? Then make sure you don't die too soon. After the words fell, 3 different patterns appeared on Yimu's eyes, and the natural energy around him kept pouring towards his body, turning into a giant Buddha's coat in the shape of a monster in samurai armor. Chapter 347 Battle of the Generals. How is this possible? Lei Luo sucked in a breath of cold air, and the beating rate of his heart suddenly increased. The blessing of the 3-in-1 Sage Mode, the Godzilla coat, Susanoo, and the form of God and Buddha, in this world, except for himself, how could there be a second person who can use it? Are you surprised? Then I'll show you what else I can do. Call out. A laser beam shot out from Im's raised fingertips, easily piercing Lei Luo's chest. This is the power of glitter fruit. Looking at his healing wound, Lei Luo's face gradually became gloomy, and an extremely absurd idea came into his mind. The so-called Yimu, is it because of the evil thoughts that he unintentionally scattered? However, this conjecture was quickly overturned by Lei Luo. Not to mention whether he has scattered any evil thoughts, just from the perspective of time, Im will definitely not have any relationship with him. Who the hell are you? Lei Luo roared. This unknown sense of mystery made his spirits very uncomfortable, as if he was in a hellish fantasy. Wait a minute, illusion, 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan. Could it be called demonic illusion? No, demonic illusion is a unique ability in the Hokage world, and will never appear in the pirate world. Coupled with the ability of 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan to see through all laws, it is absolutely impossible for him to be in demonic illusion. That being said, everything Im just showed is true. After a glimpse, Lei Luo, whose body was stiff, was shocked by the reality. Want to know who I am? Let's wait until you survive. Kill the ashes together. A sharp white bone shot out from Yimu's palm, directly crossing the space node, breaking free from the shackles of time, and piercing Lei Luo's face. The effect of killing the ashes together is a smash that transcends time and space. A faint breeze blew through, and Lei Luo, together with the bone, turned into strands of powder and scattered freely in the air. Boss. Lei Luo. Chief. The people who checked the vision for the first time only felt that in their chests, there was an unquenchable rage that was constantly rising, like the demons of the ancient times, engulfing their reason. Kill, kill, kill. Those who appear in front of my eyes will die. The peacemakers turned into murderous devils, killing the enemies that appeared in front of them without any reservation. They want to avenge their leader, the leader who takes the responsibility of building the era of great peace. Calm down. Just follow me. Live without worry. The spiritual platform is quiet. Master Yi swept Count Yuhi away with a backhand sword, the sword energy forming a shield, and the meditation art was continuously chanted from his mouth. Lei Luo is not dead yet. No one knows this better than he, who is in sympathy with Lei Luo. Besides, the gigantic Uzumaki in the sky, which kept resurrecting the peacemakers who died in battle, did not stop spinning. Hey, Carp, listen up. Sengoku and Suru, who had also sensed everything long ago, sandwiched the crazy Garp between the left and the right. The bloodthirsty monsters produced by the hatred and killing intent devoured their reason are inherently terrifying. If the body is at the level of Garp, with the support of infinite resurrection, it will definitely become the priority target of both sides. Sure enough, just when Duo was about to join forces with Ant to attack any road, a golden light prison sheltered him, and the flying powder in the air also returned to its original position. I really don't know what you're thinking. Even if you can escape the co-killing of ashes, you still have to risk it. There is some confusion in Yimu's words, but these are not important, because there is no room for any turnaround in the battle between him and Lei Luo. If you don't fight hard, how will I know whether your move is true or false? When the words fell, Lei Luo, who also had 4 forms in one, followed his heart. Thousands of lightsabers condensed behind him, and the armor of the Hades immediately wrapped him around him. The system has said that co-killing ashes can only be used by those who have eaten chakra fruits and who have Rinnegan. Since everything about Im is true, then there is only one possibility. He is Lei Luo from a parallel space. Seeing that Lei Luo finally started to face the battle, Im's eyes did not show any indecision. The burning dark flames condensed into battle armor and attached to his body, and tens of thousands of Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, appeared in the behind him. Have you also taken control of Yin-Yang escape and become a 6 paths immortal? Lei Luo grinned, the iron sword in his hand burst out with divine light, and he slashed down towards Yimu. What about the same ability? What about the 6 Paths Immortals, the god-level underworld clothes of Hades, the underworld king? He is the only one in the world. It seems that he felt the horror contained in that sword, and didn't dare to despise it at all, and with a big move, a transparent crystal wall blocked him. Boom! 2 extremely strong energies are venting recklessly, the earth is trembling, and the sky is retreating. Even if it is a god, it will definitely choose to escape in the face of this kind of offensive. PFF'd. Above the sky, Lei Luo and Yimu were still banging on each other, but the 2 sides fighting below suffered as a result. They were simply unable to stop that splendid look. Even if any defensive means touched a trace of the power that penetrated from the air, it would turn into nothingness in an instant, with only white scraps of paper and blood flowing in an endless stream. The immortality of impure world reincarnation, and the infinite resurrection brought about by the accumulation of corpse energy, made Lei Luo and Yimu unleash their full power without any scruples. Lei Luo, you have to solve the battle as soon as possible, the pirate world can't bear the collision of you 2 monsters too much. The system prompt sounded suddenly, first reminding Lei Luo how powerful the opponent he was facing was. Then don't waste time, accumulate corpse energy and turn spiritual waves. Lei Luo, who took advantage of the distance to escape, pulled enough distance from IM. Above the raised arms, endless accumulation of corpse energy was constantly surrounding, and there were several huge Uzumaki added to the sky. What is that? What a terrifying power! Could it be that there really exists a god in the world? This energy may be enough to destroy everything in the world. All over the pirate world, countless people looked at Uzumaki who suddenly appeared in the sky in the distance. Today is the day when the world government and the alliance of peacekeepers will have a decisive battle. No one does not know it, but what they cannot imagine is that there are such powerful human beings in the world. No, this can no longer be said to be a human being, this is a god, and only a daunting supreme god can possess such a mighty power. The unmatched power of all human beings. Chapter 348-Strongest vs Strongest. Feeling the overwhelming terror emanating from the air, the government troops and the peacemakers chose a truce with great tacit understanding. Lei Luo's move is too terrifying. If Yimu didn't have a move to compete with, then the result of this battle would have been obvious, and there was no need to continue the fight. However, if Yimu can break out a stronger means, then Lei Luo's end is only death. The Peacemaker Alliance has completely dissipated today, and there is only the existence of the government in the world. No matter what the result is, it has already directly announced what the future world will look like. What everyone can do is to witness the rise of an emperor of a brand new era. Everyone, I'm sorry, I can't support your resurrection anymore. In the air, Lei Luo's heavy and apologetic voice sounded, and at that moment, all the peaceful people who had experienced death before collapsed to the ground, and their souls poured into Uzumaki. Life and death are no longer important to those who have experienced death. They have neither the desire for life nor the fear of death. They only hope that they can contribute their last strength to true peace. Therefore, each of them had only blessings on their faces when they fell, blessings for Lei Luo's victory. Call out. I saw Lei Luo's arms for a while, all the energy in his body gathered between his hands, and a giant energy ball shining with blue light appeared in his hands. Just like the earth, beauty and destruction coexist. Children, you must have suffered a lot during your father's absence. Suddenly, somewhere in the Uzumaki, a tall soul appeared, and there was a sparkling light in the eyes that looked at Margao and his party. Dad! A roar containing longing rang out from the mouths of all the white-bearded crew members at the scene. At this time, they all knelt on the ground, holding back their tears, just hoping that the old man who sheltered him when he grew up could see him. It's a good life, even if it's suffering, it's still very good. Dad, run slowly and pay attention to your body. At that time, another young figure rushed out of Uzumaki, and while his tone was a little reproachful, he did not forget to support Whitebeard. Hearing this familiar voice, Margao and his group shuddered suddenly, and they couldn't help it any longer. To be able to see my deceased father and brother again, even if I die in this battle, I have no regrets. However, on the side of the peacemakers, apart from Marco, there were two others who looked at the young figure who appeared later, their bodies trembling uncontrollably, and their tears were like Izumi. Ace. Hearing the call buried deep in his memory, Ace turned his head sharply and looked at the two best brothers in his life. Mr. Lei Luo, my two brothers may not be very obedient. I hope you will take care of them in the future. Ace will thank you in advance. Just after smiling and waving at Sabo and Luffy, Ace turned around and bowed deeply to Lei Luo with the help of the Whitebeard. A rare reunion, Ace will never let his brother see his unsatisfactory appearance with sand in his eyes. Cap, Sengoku, and everyone, long time no see. Captain Roger. Roger, I'm sorry I didn't take care of Ace. Another soul emerged, and it was the famous One Piece Roger. It's rare to meet, don't say such things, there are a large group of old friends behind me. Roger put his arms around Ace's mother with a laugh, and looked back at the old-time powerhouses flying out of the Uzumaki in the air. At this moment, whether it is an enemy or a friend, a bloody feud or a great kindness, it is already a smoke of the past. If we meet again, we are all friends, and an old friend who accompanied me through a glorious period of time. Teacher Zepha. Father and mother. Child, Daddy is here. With the appearance of souls, everyone sees the person they want to see most in their life. Lei Luo fulfilled their promise. Let's all say goodbye, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to see you again in the future. Lei Luo smiled helplessly. After these souls entered the spiritual wave, they would no longer exist in the world or the underworld. This is the method of accumulating corpse energy and turning spiritual waves. Human beings use the trick to kill gods. Everyone gathers all their strengths and bursts out a unique trick that is enough to kill gods. Father, 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 are you annoying? Everyone in the world listens to Lousy. If you don't want to die, then bring all your strength to me. After a while of silence, Im's roar resounded throughout the world, and at this moment, he also raised his arms high like Lei Luo. At this moment, everyone around the world except the Alliance of Peacekeepers raised their arms subconsciously and pointed their palms in the direction of the Holy Land Mary Joa. 10 days ago, the 5 old stars forced everyone to do so after hearing Yimu's order, or else they would end up killing the whole family. In the face of this kind of punishment that is even more vicious than the death penalty, the people who are just ordinary citizens can only choose to surrender and let the light blue light swept out of their palms, and the sense of powerlessness constantly impacts their brains. Not good. I is condensing vitality bombs. Seeing that the energy bomb that Imto lifted was getting bigger and bigger, Lei Luo exclaimed, and hurriedly turned to face the souls who were still looking at their relatives and friends, and nodded solemnly. Goodbye, everyone. The voice that hit the depths of the soul sounded, and under the leadership of Roger and Whitebeard, thousands of souls turned into the cleanest energy, submerged into the energy ball in Lei Luo's hand, and became a part of the corpse accumulating energy and turning the spiritual wave. On the one hand, it relies on the strength of living people, condensed vitality bombs. On the other side, the souls of deceased people are gathered together, and the accumulated corpse energy is formed to turn spiritual waves. Between the two, it seems that they are born to represent the enemy of life and death. Once they appear, the sky will be shattered. Go to hell, Lei Luo, who made me ruthless all my life. The victory of this battle will definitely be me, because this is everyone's strength. The roars of Yimu and Lei Luo sounded in unison, and even the timing of their moves was exactly the same. With such a high degree of tacit understanding, Lei Luo even felt that if the two of them knew each other, they would definitely be no weaker than Ace, Sabo and Luffy, as well as brothers like Naruto and Sasuke. Boom! 2 powerful energy bombs collided with each other. This is the strongest trick they can use. Everyone, whether they were government troops, peaceful people, or ordinary people, held their breaths, quietly watching and waiting for the result of the collision between the strongest and the strongest. Chapter 350-Misfortune. Call out. No one could have imagined that at the moment when the corpse chi turned the spiritual wave and was about to devour Yimu, Lei Luo suddenly gave a loud shout, mustering all the strength of every cell in his body, and forcibly threw it into the sky. Boom! The splendor like a meteor exploded the sky, and above the Holy Land Mary Joa, there was a hole like the ancient times, but that time there was a Nua mending the sky, but this time only 2 weak figures fell to the ground. Are you taking pity on me? I don't need your mercy. I am lying on the ground, with all the muscles in his body broken, cursing viciously Lei Luo, who was supported by the iron sword in his hand not far away. Useless death can't change the rules of reality, I just hope you can go back. Lei Luo's voice was devoid of any emotion. Having just experienced death, he deeply understood the feeling of powerlessness and yearning for life. At the last moment, he chose to let Yim go, because he is a human, a person with emotions and flesh. Are you going back? Yimu kept mumbling, and silence fell between the two. On the entire island, only young geese wailed around the dead old geese. Boom! The huge Uzumaki reappeared in the sky. This is Lei Luo's determination to revive the peacemakers. Is it finally over? People from all over the world looked at the giant hole in the sky in the distance, and the two powers that contained the destruction of the sky and the earth also disappeared. This battle, which represented the end, finally came to an end. Damn, what is that? Suddenly, a huge mermaid with wings on its back rose into the air and rushed into the hole that was blasted by the accumulated corpse energy and the spiritual wave. It was the fusion of the 3 ancient weapons that Yimu had painstakingly forged. The ultimate trump card, the god of the gods who is enough to completely destroy a world, the god King Zeus. There is no violent power, and there is no energy fluctuation. Some are just the continuous decomposition of Zeus, the body's shape or the clear and light gas, which gradually repairs this gap. Seeing all this, Lei Luo just smiled. He knew it was Im's choice, proving that he knew his fault and turned back. The god King Zeus has the power to destroy everything, but in mythology, he has a father who protects human beings from growing up. There. The flames of war that were about to go out ignited again. Among them, a black-feathered bird with a peculiar shape spread its wings and flew high. This is the Bennu bird reborn from the ashes, and it is the return of Sanji. It seems that Tianbaoxing's holy clothes are really suitable for you. Feeling the breath that appeared behind him, Lei Luo did not stop, but continued to search for the souls of everyone who lost their subjective consciousness and swayed with the wind. He wanted to resurrect all the peacemakers. Swish. PFF'd. It was too late to speak, and a big hand wrapped in pitch-black armor appeared without warning and pierced Lei Luo's chest. Unstoppable blood gushed out from his throat, which was hard to stop. Why? In an instant, Lei Luo, whose blood had collapsed to the limit, slowly turned his head back. The horror in his eyes was far less than the confusion. He didn't understand why the person who attacked him was actually Sanji. Ha ha ha, Lei Luo, now is the real end. Before Sanji could answer, Im's laughter entered Lei Luo's ears. At this moment, Sanji, his eyes are dull, the skin around his body is covered with a strange light green light, and he stands there motionless like a robot, only the dark green liquid runs along his arm, continuously. Injected into Lei Luo's body. You won't be able to escape from me with Sanji alone, right? If I didn't let him go, even if you came to rescue yourself, it would be impossible. Im slowly got up from the ground, the trembling muscles, obviously not fully recovered from the injury, are still on the verge of extreme danger. However, the current Lei Luo was obviously more seriously injured, and as the only person present with normal mobility, he personally pierced his chest. This damn white star just got out of my shackles, otherwise, it would not be as troublesome as it is now. Looking at the big hole in the air that was still being repaired, Im said with some resentment. From the beginning, he made follow-up preparations for his failure, but what he did not expect was that Bai Xing's consciousness was restored because of his weakness, and he chose to sacrifice himself to save the people. Looking at Yimu who was approaching him step by step, Lei Luo closed his eyes. That was the pace of death. 10 meters, 9 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter. Just when Im's bloody fingers were about to touch Lei Luo's eyes, Sanji's big hand that penetrated Lei Luo's chest suddenly pulled out and punched him in the face with a backhand. PFF'd. The savage force struck, and Yimu's fragile body instantly flew out like a kite with a broken string, and the mysterious haze on his face also faded. At this moment, Sanji's eyes gradually returned to normal, and Lei Luo's figure also turned into thousands of light spots and disappeared in place. It turns out that the abnormality in Sanji's body was noticed by Lei Luo 3 years ago. What just happened was just a scene to reveal Im's true identity. In the empty Uzumaki, the intact Lei Luo descended like a god, sneering down at Yimu who was struggling on the ground. Those who have been given a chance and have not repented have no need to live in the world. Accept your final punishment, I am. Starting with the iron sword, the golden rays of light poured into it, and the subtle sharp sword energy wandered in the space, and the cracks appeared faintly, showing the terribleness of this sword. God's wrath and punishment. Lei Luo threw a mouthful of blood on the sword body. The huge Uzumaki in the air began to vibrate continuously, and golden light emerged from it, converging into a golden broadsword, with the momentum of smashing the yellow dragon, ignoring the constraints of time and space, attacking Yi. At that moment, the wind whistled, the sky shook, and the waves from the sea slapped the coast crazily. When the gods were angry, they would naturally become the most realistic embodiment. Boom! The golden broadsword fell, and everything was cut in half under the fierce and unparalleled sword energy. Whether it was space or the earth, it was difficult to stop the power of this sword. How could this be? The exclamation sounded. Lei Luo's heart was pounding. He couldn't believe what he saw with his own eyes. That I am, who had been fighting with him for several years, the behind-the-scenes boss of the world government, the emperor of the Tianlong people, actually had a face that was 70% similar to him. Even if he hasn't seen that face for more than 10 years, Lei Luo will never be unfamiliar with it, because that's the person he longs for, the person he wants to see the most before his death, his own son in the future. Chapter 351 _ the final chapter. You are my son. Lei Luo rushed down and hugged Im, who had run out of time, in his arms. Go away, I don't have a father like you. Facing Lei Luo's trembling questioning, Yimu tried desperately to break free from his embrace, but he couldn't even breathe. Why does Im own the 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan? Why does Im have the Sage Mode of the 3 Immortals? Why is Im able to activate the killing ashes that even Lei Luo can't use, and why? Countless questions resurfaced in front of Lei Luo's eyes again, and no explanation was needed at this time, because the kinship from blood was enough to explain everything. I am Ta, the biological son of Lei Luo. Why did you become like this, and why did you come to this world? Lei Luo kept whispering in his mouth. His brain has long been blank. All of this is simply unacceptable as a father. I actually killed my own child. I actually killed my own child. At the moment when Im's hideous smile completely solidified, Lei Luo's whole body seemed to have lost his soul, kneeling on the ground, motionless. Standing beside Lei Luo, Sanji sighed helplessly. Although he didn't understand what happened, he knew that Lei Luo was going through an unprecedented experience of inner demons. Suddenly, a thin white smoke wafted out of Yimu's body, and Lei Luo, who was confused, slammed it into the palm of his hand. System, explain, what the hell is going on? Lei Luo's furious roar circled in his mind. The white smoke he held was not Yimu's soul, but a special existence similar to a system. The future, like you, is the chosen one, but his system seems to be shaped by all kinds of extreme negative emotions. After the system's words fell, everything in front of Lei Luo gradually became illusory. Hokage world, Lei Luo left a year later. Your father is Lei Luo. Ha 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 ha, how can you imagine a great man as a father just because you were born weak? Konoha Academy. Several genins sneered at the only student who did not pass the test. It was the future. It's just for some reason. The future in his childhood suddenly suffered from a serious illness. When he recovered, not only was his physique weaker than ordinary people, but he couldn't condense even a trace of chakra inside his body, and he once became the laughingstock of his peers, a bully. Abject. But even so, he still did not give up lightly in the future. He secretly vowed that he must become a Jonin-like might guy. However, the cruel reality will soon wake up the future. His physical fitness, let alone daily training, even walking has become extremely difficult. When he was just over 10 years old, he had a long head of hair early, and his body exuded thick hair. Intense death. Hokage I, Yuhi and others searched for all the treasures in the world, trying to save future lives, but in the end, they were empty-handed. One day, the tomb of the future collapsed, and an incarnation of hatred crawled out of it. Host, that's it, only endless hatred can give you indestructible power. That's right, the future has become the one chosen by God. With a negative system, he has completed his revenge against all those who bullied him, and his strength is no less than the myth left by Lei Luo. System, why have I done so much, but I still can't completely dissipate the fire of hatred in my heart? Because the person who caused the tragedy is your biological father, and you must complete your revenge against him. Where is he now? Another world. As long as you step into the space in front of you, I will send you to the world where your father is. Good. Coming to the world of pirates, the future is attached to the body of a young man who died accidentally under the waves, the young man named Rox. After learning the timeline of Lei Luo from the system, he conquered this sea in the name of Rox in the future, leaving a prophecy that would be convenient for him to find Lei Luo in the future, and then he faked his death in front of the world. Mu's identity lives on. I am a mother, he is a child with only a mother, and the meaning of surviving to this day is to complete his revenge. Under the decoding of the system, Lei Luo, who knew all the ins and outs, sneered. He would never have thought that the source of the tragedy in front of him would actually be caused by himself. On the other side, Sanji, who saw Lei Luo laugh for a while and cry for a while, had no choice but to sigh. He didn't know why, but what he could do was to pass the cigarette in his arms to Lei Luo. Boom. After smoking a cigarette in silence, the corpse gas in Lei Luo's body emerged again, and the Uzumaki above the sky also turned, and the souls of the dead peacemakers were reshaped and flew out from it, escaping into his own body. Within. Sanji, where's the boss? Where's I am? After the reborn Analu surrounded himself, he hurriedly asked Sanji. He was afraid that the death he had imagined would become a reality. In the same way, everyone who returned from the resurrection focused on Sanji, and only Master Yi left quietly without saying a final farewell to his comrades. Two sisters, my brother-in-law asked me to bring you a message, see you in a year. After speaking, Sanji just smiled, turned and walked towards the straw hats, but stopped for a moment and looked at the vast sea. I am a sinner, and the road of redemption must be completed. Sanji, help me tell everyone that the mountains and rivers meet, and see you in a year. Lei Luo's words echoed in Sanji's mind again. At this moment, somewhere on the sea, a man with Chinese hair smiled and explained what he had seen to the boy who had no life in his arms. Master Yi, come and sit, let me tell you too about this mysterious sea. At that moment, the Wafa man spoke from the sea to the land, and all the ages of the earth, as well as all things in the universe, these unheard of knowledge. However, what neither Lei Luo nor Master Yi noticed was that the heart of the young corpse seemed to be beating slightly. 3 months later, the Holy Land Mary Joa resumed its former prosperity, but now the owner here is a group of peacemakers who have created a new era, and the empty throne that symbolizes love and peace is left untouched. It's just that on the wall above the throne, there is a smiling man with evil eyes, dotted with a few large characters, that is the supreme evaluation of all the people for him. The Guardian of the World, Lei Luo. Chapter 352_Surprise, Resurrection Hope. Time passed without a trace, and Lei Luo took Master Yi to various places in the pirate world, looking for a way to resurrect the future. After discovering that the future still has a heartbeat, Lei Luo was ecstatic, and frantically used the ability of accumulating corpse energy to revive the future, but found that no matter how hard she tried, it was useless. In the future, although the heart has not stopped beating, it will never wake up, like a living dead. Master, after so many years, this world may not have a way to resurrect the young master. Master Yi, who was behind Lin Luo, said somewhat decadently. From the duel called the Battle of the Century, to the present, they have been searching for 30 years in the pirate world. The fruit of Huang Izumi was eaten by the future, but it did not wake up the future. Yi, don't persuade me, are you letting me watch my son die in front of me? Even if he is completely different, my blood is still flowing in his body. Lei Luo's back is hunched, like an old man in the twilight. After several years of searching, he was able to reach the sky with his strength, but his mood will have long since become a little depressed with the loss of the future. Master Yi wanted to say something, but found that he had no words to convince Lei Luo to change his mind. If he had a child and was in a dying state, he would, like Lei Luo, try to find a way to save his child at all costs. Silently following behind Lei Luo, Master Yi said no more. All he can do is to follow behind his master and accompany his master all the time. A new world, an unnamed island. Lei Luo looked up at the mountain in the distance, feeling extremely excited. 2 months ago, Lei Luo, who had given up hope of finding a way to revive the future, suddenly received a quest issued by the system, and the quest reward was a random world pass that Lei Luo desperately wanted to get. Since there is no way to revive the future in the pirate world, then I will go to other worlds to find it. One world will not work. Then I will travel all the worlds. I must find a way to bring my son back to life. In the following time, Lei Luo used all the powers of the pirate world to find the location designated by the mission, and finally found the target 2 months later. Standing at the entrance of the Millennium Dragon's lair, Lei Luo couldn't hide his excitement. Future, waiting to be a father. Lei Luo jumped up gently, and entered the 1,000-year-old dragon's lair in the form of golden light. The lair was obviously abandoned. Although there was no sunlight in the cave, it was not damp. Some bones of beasts that were eaten by the 1,000-year-old dragon were scattered in the cave. All around, the smallest of these skeletons are hundreds of meters high, but in this cave, they are still not spectacular enough. It is indeed the most mysterious creature in the pirate world. It's just that the nests where it once lived are so atmospheric, even the bones of giant sea kings can't occupy even 1/100th of a millionth of the place in the whole. Golden light art. Lei Luo's head, and he looked around with the light, and soon saw a huge bulge at the top of the cave. Without much effort, Lei Luo jumped up. This is obviously the place where the 1,000-year-old dragon lord lives. If the treasure that the system quest asked him to find is in this lair, it will definitely be placed here. Next, without much effort, Lin Luo found the props required by the mission in a corner, a black stone engraved with the complete historical text. Different from the 3 scattered stones in the original One Piece, the historical text on this stone is very complete. As long as you can read the text engraved on it, you can know what happened in the 100 years that Akatsuki One Piece lost. However, Lei Luo was not interested in these, and immediately used the random world pass after getting the reward of the task. A little bit of fluorescent light scattered, and soon condensed into a door of light in front of Lei Luo. After the light gate is a time passage leading to a random world. Finally, after looking at the world of pirates, Lei Luo didn't tangle too much, and after biting Kiba, he stepped directly into the door of light. Outside the 1,000-year-old dragon's lair, Master Yi rushed into the cave with a feeling, and looked up, but Lei Luo was nowhere to be seen. Master, I will definitely protect the young master's body. After saying a few words to the air, Master Yi sat cross-legged in the cave, where he would wait until Lei Luo returned to the pirate world. Lei Luo has no way of knowing about Master Yi's decision in the pirate world, and even if he did, he wouldn't stop Master Yi's actions. Right now, he only wanted to enter the new world quickly, but he was afraid that there was no way to resurrect the future in the new world he entered. With mixed feelings, Lei Luo continued to move forward in the time channel in an uneasy mood. As countless images flashed before his eyes, finally, Lei Luo walked out of a door of light. As in the previous situation, the accumulated corpse energy in Lei Luo's body will quickly dissipate with a little push, as if it will be depleted in no time. For this situation, Lei Luo did not panic. After all, he had already experienced it once. What world is this? He looked around, and wherever his eyes passed, there were square white stones Jinchuriki columns standing in front of him, and Lei Luo happened to be standing on top of a stone Jinchuriki column at this time. Looking down, people in modern clothes are constantly shuttling through the stone Hashirama, as if there is a big terror behind them. Regarding the unknown situation in the new world, Lei Luo acted very cautiously, and 9 Tomo Rinnegan launched, looking towards the stone Jinchuriki column behind those people. That's. Under the gaze of 9 Tomo Rinnegan, 3 or 4 monsters with a size of 50 meters were constantly walking towards the place far away from the running crowd. The upper body and lower body of these monsters are connected by joints, and their movements do not seem to be fast. It may also be because they dare not destroy the surrounding stone Jinchuriki column. For a long time, these monsters have not caught up with even a fleeing person. The meaning of hell. Lei Luo was shocked, and already remembered the name of the monster in front of him. The world of death. So I came here this time. Thinking about it carefully in my heart, it seems that there is no example of resurrection in the world of the god of death. The only thing that has hope of resurrecting people is probably that thing. If you want to get that thing, you have to get out of here first. Hell, there is very little ink in the original death god, and I don't know much about this place. Seeing the meaning of hell constantly approaching him in the distance, Lei Luo began to think about how to use the little power left to kill them. Chapter 353 _ The Meaning of Hell. The meaning of hell was gradually approaching, but it was too late for Lei Luo to get out of the way. Moreover, the accumulated corpse chi in the body cannot be replenished after being used up. If you just dodge, I am afraid that even Lei Luo can't dodge for too long. It's the right solution to find a way to kill these hells. Lei Luo recalled the death animation he watched before. The meaning of hell is the incarnation of the will of hell. The ability is higher than the deputy captain of the death squad, but lower than the death captain. And although the meaning of hell will not really die, after being dispersed, it will take a while to reunite the body. The reason why the meaning of hell makes people feel invincible is because the attack of the blame is ineffective against them, and the god of death cannot enter hell under the constraints of the rules. Guilty, killed, bottom of hell. Resurrection. Lei Luo remembered more and more things, and suddenly realized that he had forgotten the most important place. The lowest level of the region. The lowest level of hell that can revive the guilty. Lei Luo was so excited that he couldn't help but praise the system for a while, and even made him directly reach the hell with the resurrection function in the god of death. But how do you get to the bottom of hell? Lei Luo bowed his head and pondered. In his cognition, the bottom of hell has never appeared in the anime, and he has never mentioned any method to reach the bottom of hell. There is only one sentence in the original book: the culprit will reach the bottom of hell after being killed by the meaning of hell and then be resurrected and continue to be killed until the culprit is exhausted and unable to resurrect. This thread. Do I have to kill the will of hell before I can find the bottom of hell? Lei Luo saw that he was about to reach the hell in front of him, and his heart was full of contradictions. Being killed by the meaning of hell means that Lei Luo will become a blame person, and the blame person cannot leave hell. If he wants to escape from hell, he will be attacked by the meaning of hell, but the attack of the blame person cannot hurt the meaning of hell at all, even if the ability is great, not even a day. Therefore, The consequence of being killed by the meaning of hell is that Lei Luo becomes the blamer, and then becomes a part of the blamer in hell forever, trapped in the hell of the world of death forever. What's the point of finding a way to resurrect if you lose your freedom? Lei Luo denied this method and looked down at the culprit who escaped. Let's find these culprits first to understand the situation. Maybe there are other ways for me to find the bottom of hell. After making up his mind, Lei Luo is no longer tangled, the corpse gas is tumbling in his body, and the God Buddha model is looming. He doesn't know the power system of the world of death, so he will go all out when he is ready to get started. Ding dong, an emergency is detected. Activate the mission. Victory in the first battle. Victory in the first battle. Kill the meaning of hell and save the culprit being chased. The task completion will be rewarded with a god-level lottery point *1. The sound of the system sounded in Lei Luo's heart, which strengthened Lei Luo's idea of killing these hells. Without hesitation, Lei Luo completely activated the God Buddha mode. Roar. As if feeling Lei Luo's killing intent, he opened his mouth and roared in the near hell, smashing a culprit hiding beside Shi Jinchuriki, column into meat pie, then jumped up and smashed his fist at Lei Luo standing the stone Jinchuriki column. Boom. The smoke and dust were everywhere, and the stone Jinchuriki column on which Lei Luo was standing burst out with countless rubble falling to the surroundings, smashing the heads of many of the culprits who could not dodge under the stone Jinchuriki column. In the smoke, the meaning of hell stood up, and in front of it, a golden figure as huge as it appeared, blocking the iron fist of the meaning of hell in front of him. The power is terrifying. It seems that the power system in the world of death is also very high, but in the golden figure, Lei Luo's eyes were wide open, and the corpse gas in his body soared. The next moment, the golden figure let out a silent roar, and pushed his arms hard, pushing the huge body of the meaning of hell away, freeing up the golden figure in his hands. The figure then punched the forehead of the meaning of hell. Boom. When the explosion sounded, the meaning of hell was smashed by Lei Luo with a punch. At the same time as it fell with a bang, the body of the meaning of hell quickly differentiated, and as soon as it touched the ground, it turned into a little black light. This scene made the culprits standing under the stone Jinchuriki column terrified, not caring about the hellish intent of slaughtering their comrades on the side, and all the culprits exclaimed. Who is that person? He was able to attack the meaning of hell. We are saved. Godman, save me. I have meat to eat with the boss. Boss, save me. You will be my reborn parent from now on. I will do whatever you ask me to do. Ignoring Shi Jinchuriki column's blasphemy, Lei Luo looked down at the other two places. At this moment, the other two hells who were torturing and killing people had stopped their movements and looked up at Lei Luo. You, not to blame. Intermittent words rang in Lei Luo's ears. It was the voice of hell, without emotion. Even seeing his companions, death, in front of him did not fluctuate in the slightest. They are dead things without their own thoughts, and all their actions represent the will of hell itself. The meaning of their existence is only to torture and kill the guilty people in hell, so as not to make them feel better. Nonsense. Can blame people hurt you? Lei Luo shouted loudly and jumped down from the stone Jinchuriki column. In midair, the golden figure stretched out his hands, and a golden light shot out from his palms. The target was the meaning of hell that was closest to Lei Luo. Light escape. Judgment. The golden light condensed on the top of hell's intention, turned into a sky-splitting sword, and slashed down with endless might. Boom. The meaning of hell raised his arms to resist the falling golden sword, but it was useless, and was split in half by the golden sword and the arm. When Lei Luo landed, the last infernal intent had already rushed over, but Lei Luo ignored its attack. After a few minutes, this infernal incarnation was also killed, turning into a little black light waiting to condense again. The meaning of killing 3 hells will consume less than half of the accumulated corpse in the body. It seems that the energy in the body needs to be converted into energy attributes suitable for this world as soon as possible. Putting away the God Buddha mode, Lei Luo turned to look at the culprits around him, and soon came to the side of a wounded culprit. Do you know how to get to the bottom of hell without dying? When Lei Luo was questioning, there were a few people in the distance from a certain Shijinchuriki column looking at this place from a distance. This person can kill the meaning of hell. I'm afraid it's not the same blame as, and his ability is very strange. It doesn't seem to be the ability of the god of death. Is it a high-level imaginary? Whatever he is, as long as he can help us break through the gates of hell. Hey, as long as you can break the chain on your chest, the meaning of hell is nothing to worry about. Chapter 354_blame. Are we going to get in touch with him now? One of the people on the stone Jinchuriki column in the distance spoke, then turned to look at his partner. His eyes were mostly asking. Don't worry, we'll talk about it when we figure out what he's doing in hell. Ultramarine. Got it. A tall and thin figure whose hands were tentacles and whose head was bandaged to cover his eyes walked out. After agreeing, the figure quickly swept to where Lei Luo was. Let's just wait here for news from Ultramarine. The man sat down as he spoke, and when the people around him saw this, they also sat on the ground with a smile. Boss Zhu Lian, what are you going to do when we return to this world? A fat man with green hair on the top of his head asked boredly, but before Zhu Lian could answer, he continued talking to himself. I want to follow the boss all the time. It's best to kill a few gods of death who are patrolling the world. Zhu Lian looked back at Mai Luya and didn't answer, but the smile on the corner of his mouth showed that he was very satisfied with my decision. On the other side, Ultramarine was standing on a stone Jinchuriki column, watching every move of Lei Luo not far away. Do any of you know how to get to the bottom of hell without dying? Lei Luo turned his head and asked the culprits around him. All the dead souls with chains on their bodies were stunned, as if they didn't understand what Lei Luo was talking about. Only the bottom of hell can go there after the blamer dies, and it's impossible for the blamer to break into it at ordinary times. Big brother, why are you asking this? There is nothing to see at the bottom of hell. There is only a river of yellow and orange. Every time we are killed by the meaning of hell, our souls will fall into the river without knowing it, and then after 10 it takes half a month of pain and torture to climb out of the river again, and then suddenly appear here from the bottom of hell unconsciously. Quote. Yeah, even we ourselves don't know how to get to the bottom of hell, let alone a living person who wants to go to the bottom of hell. Big brother, the bottom of hell is not a place where the living can go. You don't know, the blamer who enters where will have to shed a few layers of skin even if he doesn't die. Yeah, where, you will see your own muscles grow a little bit with your own eyes, the sense of rebirth of flesh and blood, as if tens of thousands of ants are eating your flesh and bones. And Huang Izumi water will keep you awake all the time, and I don't know if it is a psychological effect or a special effect of yellow Izumi water. Immerse in yellow Izumi water, and your whole body will feel extremely sensitive, as if the feeling on your body has been magnified millions of times. Quote. Not only that, the last time I fell to the bottom of hell, I found out that it wasn't Huang Izumi, but a raging flame. I couldn't stand at all, I could only be burned in the flames, just 10 days. Time, I feel like where I have spent 100 years. There are also huge grinding discs that make you have to run all the time, and you will be crushed when you stop, and you can only leave after being crushed 18 times. But the pain of crushing your body and bones, you only need to taste it once. Would love to try a second time. Quote. I have also experienced the mountain of knives. The oil pan. A group of guilt people remembered the bottom of hell. At first, they talked endlessly, but the more they went on, the fewer people spoke and the less they said, until finally everyone shrank on the ground and shivered. Looking at the culprits lying on the ground, Lei Luo inevitably felt a little sympathy for their experience, but he knew the background of the god of death. These culprits are all people who have done a lot of evil in this world, so although Lei Luo sympathized with them, he did not feel that they were sadly. The most important thing is that the information provided by these culprits lying on the ground is completely unhelpful to Lei Luo. It seems that asking these culprits who have been resurrected from the bottom of hell but haven't even gained their abilities is a waste of time. With a heartbeat, Lei Luo rang out those who escaped from hell in the original book. Those who have the skills and are able to fight against the vice-captain of the God of Death, maybe only they can make Lei Luo find the passage to the bottom of hell alive. With this in mind, Lei Luo looked up and looked around. He didn't believe that those culprits were not nearby. After all, 3 hells had just died here. As a culprit who wanted to escape from hell, how could they not be interested in this situation? Woolen cloth. After some searching, Lei Luo saw the tall and thin figure standing on the stone Jinchuriki column not far away, smiled slightly, and the next moment, the golden light tied the thread, and Lei Luo's figure had appeared beside Qunqing. "Friend, take me to see your boss, I need to ask him something." Lei Luo tried to slow down his tone of speech. On the one hand, he did not want the other party to understand his eagerness to find a passage to the bottom of hell, so that he would not be passive in the subsequent conversation. On the other hand, the power in Lei Luo's body uses a little less, so he doesn't want to waste his power too much at this time. "We have to find a chance to draw a lottery as soon as possible. It is best to obtain an item or skill that can supply energy in the body indefinitely. Otherwise, it is too troublesome to be unable to restore the energy in the body in the world of death." Lei Luo pondered secretly. Just now he has won a god-level lottery point. Ultramarine looked at Lei Luo up and down, and he heard Lei Luo's questioning about those who blamed people just now. As Yuhi Lian's confidant, his IQ is not bad. "We do know how to enter the bottom channel of hell, but we don't know whether a living person can enter." Ultramarine was outspoken. Judging from Lei Luo's movement speed just now, if they wanted to use force to force Lei Luo to help them break the chains on their bodies, there would be no trouble. And now the other party seems to have something to ask for their help. Taking this opportunity, if the two sides can reach a cooperation, tell Lei Luo to go to the bottom channel of hell as a bargaining chip, and exchange Lei Luo to help them break the chains on their bodies, the best of both worlds, it is one great way to solve the problem. Lei Luo naturally knows what the other party thinks, but helping them is nothing to Lei Luo, as long as the energy in his body can be replenished. "God-level lottery points, you must be strong this time." Lei Luo murmured silently in his heart, then motioned to Qunqing to lead the way, and soon came to the place where Yuhi Lian was. The two sides talked briefly for a while, and soon reached a consensus. As long as Lei Luo reaches the bottom of hell, he will help Yuhi Lian and his subordinates to break the chains on his body. Chapter 355 _ Fallen Heart Flame. Refine the energy in the body. There is no night or day in hell, so Lei Luo and others did not rest here for long, and soon set off for the bottom of hell. "Boss, are we really going to take him to the bottom of hell?" Halfway through the journey, Luya, with green hair, whispered to Yuhi Lian, who was walking in the front, as if I was very puzzled by my boss's decision. The dangers at the bottom of hell are self-evident. Even going with Lei Luo's strength at this time would be dangerous, let alone them. It wouldn't hurt us to take him to the bottom one, we've been there many times anyway. Yuhi Lian turned her head and glanced at Lei Luo, found that the other party was just following at the end honestly, and there was no other movement. She whispered again. "The opponent's strength is good. I haven't seen his strength until now. Everyone will be careful. If he has any suspicious behavior, don't hesitate to beat him immediately, and then use force to let him help us destroy it. Drop the chains." "Yes, boss." The few people who followed Yuhi Lian replied in a low voice, and gradually approached Lei Luo without a trace. Lei Luo, who was walking at the end, had already discovered the abnormal behavior of these culprits, but now he is not in the mood to pay attention to them, because he has already started calling the system in his heart. "System, I want to draw a lottery." Lei Luo recited in his mind, and then a huge turntable appeared in his mind. The turntable was divided into 6 areas, and each area had a prize. S-Class Weapon, Lake Toya. S-Level Skills, Flowing Water Rock Shattering Fist. S-Class Item, Fallen Heart Flame. S-Level Exercises, Hyunyuan Burning Blood. S-Class Item, Sky Dragon Slayer Magic Crystal. S-Class Weapon, Iron Crusher Kiba. Seeing Lake Toya reappearing, countless black lines appeared on Lei Luo's forehead immediately. This is the beginning of the adventure of the third world. How come Lake Toya still appears in FUC? Does this imply that I will go to the Silver Soul world if I cross again? Thinking of this, Lei Luo couldn't help trembling. He didn't want his lower limit to be lowered infinitely. Fortunately, apart from Toya Lake, the other rewards are still decent. Otherwise, I would have abolished your rotten system. The world of all heavens and 10,000 realms is not just a literal 10,000 realms, its world is enough to describe it as a sea of smoke. As for the S-level items, skills, bloodlines, etc. in each world, there are many, enough to be inexhaustible. Lei Luo was talking to himself, but he couldn't see that the system in his body was grinding Kiba's hands, as if he was ready to eat people. Lake Toya, the wooden sword held by the protagonist Silver in the anime, Silver Soul, is explained by the protagonist as a gift from a fairy. The power is infinite. The specific situation. It is more reliable to check it on Baidu. Lia's Haoyan Shattering Fist. The third-ranked S-class hero in the anime, One Punch Man, is the housekeeping skill of Kiba Bangu. Even if the dragon-level geek was hit, he could not escape the end of his body and bones. Fallen Heart Flame. The strange fire held by the protagonist in the best-selling novel, Fighting the Sky, is known as a cheating training device. With this strange fire, the body will exercise energy on its own at all times, and the energy purity is far from comparable to ordinary characters, and this different fire also has the effect of transforming energy, which is very suitable for the current situation of the host. Qianyuan Blood Burning Technique. The exercises acquired by the protagonist in the popular novel and anime, Once Upon a Time There Was a Lingjian Mountain, consumes the practitioner's lifespan to speed up their cultivation, and even allow those who cannot practice to step into the realm of cultivation. Is regarded by the sect as a wicked method, and almost kills the people who practice and spread the Qianyuan blood burning technique. Sky Dragon Slayer Magic Crystal. The Dragon Slayer magic in the anime, Fairy Tail, has a super healing ability. As long as you don't die, you can use the Sky Dragon Slayer magic to heal, and the effect is surprisingly good. Iron Broken Kiba. The weapon held by the protagonist Inuyasha in the anime, Inuyasha, is a super powerful demon sword, made of Kiba, the big monster dog general. The stronger it is, the higher the growth of Iron Broken Kiba, and the theoretical growth value is almost infinite. After a brief glance at the item introduction, Lei Luo thought that he would never draw Toya Lake, and then the turntable started to turn. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining an S-class item, Fallen Heart Flame. The final lottery result did not disappoint Renault. For the current Lei Luo, Falling Heart Flame is the most suitable reward for him. As a hot flame appeared in his body, Lei Luo felt that the accumulated corpse energy in his body was constantly being burned and transformed by the Falling Heart Flame, condensed into another energy form and filled his body again. This situation continued for about 2 or 3 hours, until Lei Luo felt his body full of energy, and the hot feeling slowly disappeared. Light escape. Yuhi perception. As soon as his mind moved, all the surrounding situations were absorbed into Lei Luo's heart, and the energy in his body also quickly decreased by 1 point when the ability was activated. However, at the same time as the energy was reduced, the feeling of dryness and heat brought by the Falling Heart Flame also emerged, and the consumed energy was replenished in a short time. Very good, there is Falling Heart Flame to transform energy, and in the future, you will no longer have to worry about being weak and unable to last for a long time. In a good mood, Lei Luo felt much more pleasing to the eye when he looked at the guilty people who surrounded him in the center. Guys, I said how long until we get there? Lei Luo asked Yuhi Lien who was walking at the forefront. Now that the energy problem has been solved, the only thing left is to find a way to resurrect the future. It's up front. Yuhi Liantu said without replying. The group accelerated, and 2 or 3 steps came to the front of a jet black Jinchuriki column. This stone, Jinchuriki column, is the door to the bottom of hell, but under normal conditions, it's impossible for us to go in. While speaking, Yuhi Lien stretched out her hand and touched Shi Jinchuriki column. Before she got close to Shi Jinchuriki column, the outstretched hand was bounced out by a white light. There is a barrier set up here, and we can't break this barrier with our strength. Yuhi Lien activated his ability, and a flame condensed in his palm, smashing towards Shi Jinchuriki column with a fiery breath, but was easily extinguished by the white light in front of Shi Jinchuriki column. I'll try it. Lei Luo took 2 steps forward and reached out to touch the front. The same situation as Yuhi Lien happened to Lei Luo at the same time. However, Lei Luo did not give up, but reached out again. This time, Lei Luo mobilized his inner energy, and his palm approached Shi Jinchuriki column again under the golden light, and then the golden light and the white light became deadlocked. The energy is very pure, and the entire hell is used as the backstage supply station. I am afraid that with my current strength, I cannot break this barrier. After a long time, Lei Luo silently closed his hands and said a little unwillingly. Chapter 356 _ breaks down. We have taken you to the bottom entrance of hell. Should you fulfill your promise and help us break the chains on your body? Yuhi Lien, who had been waiting behind Lei Luo, said that when she saw that Lei Luo could not stand against the white light of the enchantment, Yuhi Lien once felt that she had met a great person. But in the end, Lei Luo didn't win the enchantment, which made Yuhi Lien let out a sigh of relief and lowered his evaluation of Lei Luo a bit. For them, although they were frightened by Lei Luo's strength, they would not be caught off guard. As long as they find the right opportunity, they will of course attack their master. And in front of me, it seems like this opportunity. Our pact seems to be that I go into the bottom of hell. Now I'm not in, so our pact is not done. If you still want me to help break the chains, find a way for me to break the enchantment. When that time comes, I will help you break those chains without you needing to tell me. Looking at the dark stone Jinchuriki column in front of him, Lei Luo said without looking back. Are you trying to break the contract? Do you think we have something to ask of you, so I dare not do anything to you? Yuhi Lien's tone became colder, and behind him Luya and others also stepped forward a few steps, and everyone surrounded Lei Luo in the middle. It's not that we broke the contract, but our agreed conditions have not been reached, so I will never help you break the chain at this stage. Lei Luo turned his head and faced the culprits fearlessly. Boss, what nonsense do you do with him? Beat him directly, and then let him help us break the chains. Forcing him to take action, as long as he does it, we can use his attack to break the chains on his body. There is no need for him to do it himself. That is, let's deal with him together. As long as he fights back, with our ability, as long as we pay attention and let his attacks hit the chains as much as possible, they should be able to destroy these damn chains. The people behind Yuhi Lien were eager to try, and only Yuhi Lien stared at Lei Luo's eyes. Friend, I didn't want to be so troublesome, but since you don't want to cooperate, don't blame us. Go. Yuhi Lien heard the boss's order and immediately turned into a streamer and ran towards Lei Luo. Boom. The first person to attack Lei Luo was the ultramarine green who brought Lei Luo to Yuhi Lien. The 2 tentacles on his arms danced wildly, destroying the ground beside Lei Luo and under his feet. Smash Lei Luo's face. Tips for carving bugs. Facing the oncoming fist, the corners of Lei Luo's mouth were slightly upturned, and the energy in his body surged wildly, forming a shield on the surface of his body, and then only heard Lei Luo's light drink, but the figure had disappeared in place. Day Tiger. Lei Luo appeared behind Luya, clenched his fists with both hands, and quickly attacked with a straight punch at a speed that was indistinguishable to the naked eye, compressing the air between the two to the limit, and finally turned into a fierce tiger and rushed towards Luya. Boom. Even though Luya, was the one with the best defense and strength among my companions, I was still unstoppable by the day tiger in my body. No longer worrying about the lack of energy in the body, Lei Luo can use all his strength for every attack. Facing these culprits whose abilities are only comparable to the vice captain of death, Lei Luo can solve it with only physical techniques. Seeing the death of their companions, there is nothing unusual about these culprits. As long as the chains on their bodies are not broken, then they are immortal, and they only need to survive the torture at the bottom of hell to be resurrected. Friend, don't waste your efforts. Even if you can kill us this time, our ability will become stronger after the torment at the bottom of hell, and death and resurrection again and again will only make us stronger. Quote. A fat man came behind Lei Luo at some point, and at the same time as he stretched out his arms, large mouths of blood appeared all over his body. There is no doubt that as long as Lei Luo was hugged by him, he would definitely the first time was eaten up the flesh and blood of the body. Light shield. Resist halo. A dazzling golden light flashed from Lei Luo's body, turning into a halo and rushing around. The fat man behind Lei Luo let out a hoot and was immediately thrown away. Before he landed, Lei Luo was already standing in front of him. It's okay to brush Kiba more, so many mouths, are you trying to stink? With a punch, the fat man with a mouth all over his body hung up, and his soul turned into a streamer and got into the jet black Jinchuriki column beside him. Scoff. Boom. While Lei Luo was killing Fatty, two tentacles emerged from the ground and headed straight for Lei Luo's cock. They were so ruthless that they wanted to abolish Lei Luo's lower plate. Looking like a wretched, attacking is so wretched. With a thought, Lei Luo turned into golden light again, dodging the attack under his feet, and at the same time, a golden light shot out from his fingertips, targeting a ground beside Lei Luo. Light escape. Laser light. Ah! There was a scream of pain, and then the ground quickly shattered, and the tentacle monster with a large hole in its chest jumped out of the ground. At this time, the ultramarine blue, hands, feet, and all parts of the body are covered with tentacles, and there is also a tentacle sticking out from the two mouths, and the image is a tentacle monster. It looks so disgusting. Can you stop coming out to be scary? Lei Luo turned into golden light. Before Qunqing could react, he already grabbed the chain on the tentacle monster. Golden light emerged, and the chain that bound the tentacle monster suddenly shattered, turning into black light and disappearing in front of the three of them. I'm free. I'm finally not to blame anymore. Seeing that the chains tied to his body were broken, the tentacle monster was very excited, and turned to look at Yuhi Lien. His excitement was beyond words. I'm finally not to blame anymore. I can finally return to this world. Yeah, you're not to blame anymore, but you won't be able to return to this world. Lei Luo's voice sounded in front of the tentacle monster, and at the moment Yuhi Lien wanted to rush over, he punched out, and the tentacle monster's body instantly became torn apart. Without the shackles of the chains of hell, the death of Ultramarine becomes a real death, and there is no possibility of resurrection. Why did you kill him? Yuhi Lien shouted excitedly. Ultramarine was his confidant, and among his subordinates, the strongest and most loyal to his subordinates. How could Yuhi Lien not be angry if such a good subordinate died? It's nothing, I just don't like his appearance. Speaking of tentacles, Lei Luo can't help but think of those hot cartoons. Pervert's love is beyond words. Chapter 357 Attention from people in the dark. In the hell covered with stone Jinchuriki column, Yuhi Lien stood motionless in front of Lei Luo, and on him, a layer of raging flames was burning. The hot breath melted nearly half of the white stone Jinchuriki column near him. This is the ability that Yuhi Lien obtained from the constant resurrection at the bottom of hell, Yuhi Lien Hellfire. With the power of Yuhi Lien's Hellfire, Yuhi Lien can fight the three of the Ultramarines by himself, but he can't do it as easily as Lei Luo, let alone kill the most powerful Ultramarine of the three. This person in front of me can kill Qunqing and the others so easily. I'm afraid I can't help him with my ability. In this case, it is better to continue to cooperate with him. Oh, it's just a pity that the Ultramarines are. Yuhi Lien couldn't stop thinking about it, and although the Yuhi flame on his body continued to rise, he never shot at Lei Luo. After a while, Yuhi Lien came back to his senses, and the focus of his eyes shifted from Lei Luo's body to Lei Luo's hands. The fire in his eyes was instantly replaced by a kind of joy called fanaticism. Those palms covered in golden light, it quickly caught most of his attention completely. Sure enough, you can really break the chains of hell. While muttering to herself, Yuhi Lian took 2 steps closer to Lei Luo, and it was obvious that Lei Luo was the person he was dreaming to find. These chains can be broken as long as they are at the level of Captain Death. Your strength should not lose to Captain Death. If you are not subject to the rules of hell, I am afraid you can break these chains yourself. Lei Luo had already probed the strength of the hell chain when he broke the chain before, so this is only the case now. What's the use of saying these? As long as we are still to blame, there is no chance to break these chains. Yuhi Lian didn't catch what Lei Luo said at all, looked at Lei Luo coldly and said, "Is our agreement still valid? As long as I help you get to the bottom of hell, you will help me break the chains on my body." Hearing that, Lei Luo nodded lightly. "Naturally effective, as long as the barrier in front of you is broken, I will help you break the chains on your body and give you back your freedom." "Okay, it's a word." Yuhi Lian removed the flames that had been lit and sat silently waiting for Mai Luya and Taijin to be resurrected. Seeing that the opponent lost his fighting spirit, Lei Luo also removed the simplified version of the God Buddha mode and stood aside. Time passed quickly, and when Lei Luo had been waiting impatiently, a dark shadow sprang out from the jet-black Jinchuriki column. When the shadow stopped, I saw that I, the green-haired Luya, had come back to life. Luya, who is tall and strong, has grown even bigger after this resurrection, but his eyes were extremely tired. When he first appeared, he couldn't even concentrate. It wasn't until 10 minutes later that Luya gradually regained his senses, and his eyes gradually brightened. The moment I saw Lei Luo, Luya clenched both hands and subconsciously prepared to attack Lei Luo. "Stop!" Yuhi Lian's voice sounded at the right time, stopping my green Ya's actions. "But boss..." I wanted to say something more, but after seeing Yuhi Lian's eyes, I was still very unwilling to put away my fist. "It's not over." When I was walking by Lei Luo, the voice of Mai Luya whispered into Lei Luo's ears. Lei Luo didn't bother to pay attention to him. Although his strength has indeed improved after the torture at the bottom of hell, in Lei Luo's opinion, he is still too tender. Then, half an hour after I was resurrected at Luya, Taijin, who was all over his mouth, was resurrected from the bottom of hell. However, unlike Mai Luya, Taijin was absent for longer after being resurrected, nearly an hour or so. The moment he returned to his senses, when he saw Lei Luo again, the first time he saw Lei Luo was not an attack, but he was so frightened that he froze in place. "Taijin will kneel in front of Lei Luo on the spot." "Not yet." Yuhi Lian's voice sounded. Taijin's strength was the worst among them. If it wasn't for the fact that it was not easy for hell to gain power, I'm afraid Yuhi Lian would have kicked Taijin out of the team long ago. "Everyone has already gathered. What are your plans next, and how can you find the clues to destroy this barrier?" When Taijin stood behind Yuhi Lian, Lei Luo asked at the right time. "There are more powerful culprits in hell than us. Some culprits are much stronger than me and have lived longer in hell. Maybe they will have clues about this layer of enchantment. I'm going to find them now. You can follow me, or you can just wander around here. Anyway, the meaning of hell can't help you." After Yuhi Lian finished speaking, she turned around and took the lead to leave, but Taijin, who was behind her, spoke up. "Where's Ultramarine? Aren't we waiting for him?" Yuhi Lian didn't answer Taijin's question, and walked into the distance on her own. "Don't wait for him, he is completely free." Mi Luya, who followed behind Yuhi Lian, answered Taijin's question on Yuhi Lian's behalf, and the tone of voice could not tell whether she was happy or sad. "These powerful culprits, without exception, are all sinners who have been tortured at the bottom of hell to gain power, and the stronger they are, the more times they enter the bottom of hell. That kind of torture, that kind of pain, has long been deeply imprinted in their hearts, so they want to cut off the chains of hell on their bodies, one reason is to escape the great cage of hell, and the other reason is that among them, no one wants to go back to the bottom of hell again to experience that kind of piercing pain. Perhaps for them, the real death is another kind of freedom. It's just that there is a slight gap between this freedom and what they want most. Lei Luo doesn't understand the thoughts of these blasphemers, and he is too lazy to understand their thoughts. He came to this world for a very clear purpose, to find a way to resurrect the future, and then find a way to return to the pirate world to resurrect the future. Although there is no clue about the latter matter, the method of resurrecting the future is close at hand. Not far from Jinchuriki Column, another dark stone in hell, several culprits gathered beside a young man. Black Saber, is your perception correct? The Reiatsu under Yuhi Lian's commander called Ultramarine has really disappeared. Asked a culprit who also had chains on his body. There's nothing wrong. I felt a very strong spiritual pressure just now. It's the same as the feeling when the meaning of hell was killed. It should be that person who killed Yuhi Lian's men. It's very strange. It seems that only the tentacle monster's spiritual pressure has completely disappeared under Yuhi Lian's subordinates. The spiritual pressure of other people has not completely disappeared. I am afraid they just entered the bottom and revived. A guilty man in white clothes and long white hair replied. At this time he was slowly opening his closed eyes. In this way, there really is a person who is not to blame in hell. It shouldn't be wrong, but judging from the current situation, that person may have reached some consensus with Yuhilian. Hehe, Yuhilian, that scumbag, I'm afraid I can't deal with that person. I'm really looking forward to someone who can kill the meaning of hell. Chapter 358 _ Stronger Culprit. I'll go first. You two are too slow. A culprit who was advancing with the black knife suddenly accelerated and disappeared in an instant. Next to the black knife, another culprit pouted after seeing the opponent's actions, and turned his head to look at the black knife. I don't know what he is anxious about, and that person can't run away. Even if the other party is not to blame, the meaning of hell will not let him go in and out of hell casually. Heidao didn't show any expression when he heard the words, he just said lightly. However, because of his shot, the meaning of hell has been killed 3 times. I am afraid that there will be more will of hell looking for him in the future, so we still have to speed up our pace and find him as soon as possible, lest he be killed by the meaning of hell. Become the same culprits as we are. Quote. While speaking, the speed of the black knife suddenly increased a lot, and the 2 blamers advanced on the stone Jinchuriki column one after the other. They all have skills similar to Shunpo, the Shinigami, so the speed is very fast, and soon they will be able to see the dark stone Jinchuriki column where Lei Luo is. At this time, Luya and the others were just resurrected, and Yuhi Lian was turning and walking into the distance. Yuhi Lian, you're not being kind. You don't tell your old friends about such a good opportunity. A voice came from overhead, and the culprit who was one step ahead of the 2 men stopped at Yuhi Lian's head. Purple electric lights flickered on his body, and bursts of thunder sounded. Aware of the difference on the top of her head, Yuhi Lotus immediately burst into a flame of Yuhi Lotus, and then a punch slammed into the air, and the blazing Yuhi Lotus hellfire followed the punch to the culprit who appeared in the air. It's been a long time since the old friends met. They didn't say hello when they met. They just added fists and feet together. This is a bit unreasonable. The culprit in the air shifted his direction in an instant, and while avoiding Yuhi Lian's fire fist, purple thunder flickered all over his body, and the next moment, a bucket-thick purple thunder Jinchuriki column fell from the sky and slashed at Yuhi Lian on the ground. Boom! Boom! Yuhi Lian clearly knew the power of the purple thunder Jinchuriki column, and the flames rose from her body, condensing into a wall of fire in midair, blocking the purple thunder Jinchuriki column in the air. However, the purple thunder Jinchuriki column did not dissipate, and some small thunder and lightning overflowed, smashing a lot of stone Jinchuriki column around with scorched holes. Soleil, what are you doing here? I will manage this area that I said earlier. Yuhi Lian tried her best to resist the purple thunder Jinchuriki column in the air, but the culprit in the air seemed very relaxed. Hearing Yuhi Lian's shouting, the blamer known as Zilei chuckled, and the thunder on his body gradually disappeared. At the same time, the purple thunder Jinchuriki column with the thickness of the bucket also gradually became thinner until it disappeared. Yuhi Lien, don't think you have the capital to negotiate terms with us. You must know that we are the rulers of this layer of hell. Zilei looked arrogant, completely ignoring Yuhi Lien under him. Although the two of them were sinners who entered hell at the same time, and the time when they became blamers is similar, but because Zilei entered the bottom of hell far more times than Yuhi Lien, the difference in strength between the two sides is still very obvious. Due to various personal reasons, the number of times the guilt person can enter the bottom of hell is not the same. For example, Zilei, who is crazy by nature, has an extremely firm will, and can withstand the various tortures of the bottom of hell, so he dares to seek death at any time. And then use the hand of the meaning of hell to enter the bottom of hell to improve strength. Another example is Yuhi Lien. His character and will do not have the ability to court death at any time, so after he is strong enough to protect himself, he has not been killed by the meaning of hell for a long time, and his strength is naturally incomparable to Zilei. Of course, in this process, the guild of hell has collapsed due to the torment at the bottom of the region, and there are many cases where they cannot be resurrected. It is also because of this reason that there are not many guild people in the same period as Yuhi Lien and others in the current hell. As far as Yuhi Lien knows, one is him, one is Zilei in the sky, and then there are Black Sword and Shura. At the same time that Yuhi Lien was shocked by the strength of the sky purple thunder, the black knife and another culprit with a scar on his face also came here from a distance. Black Saber, Shura, you. Seeing the person coming, Yuhi Lien's face turned blue for a while, and Yuhi was completely speechless. As the soul of the guild at the same time, Yuhi Lien found that the gap between herself and them seemed to be too big. Don't be nervous, we're not here to trouble you. Heidao didn't speak, but the newly appeared Shura opened his mouth first, and pointed to Lei Luo in the distance. The meaning was obvious, their goal was to discuss something with Lei Luo. Yuhi Lien is naturally clear about their thoughts, and asks that the culprit in hell doesn't want to cut off the chains on his body. I advise you not to think about the threat of force. His strength is much stronger than you think. Yuhi Lien stepped aside, and Yuhi Lien, who knew that she was invincible, was very sensible and did not want to stop the three. If there is only one person, Yuhi Lien is confident that he can stop the other party, but if the three people on the opposite side come together, I am afraid that he will be defeated in one encounter. Especially the black knife among the three, although he usually doesn't like to talk and rarely shoots, but his strength is the most unpredictable of the three Yuhi Lien. Lei Luo paid attention to the situation in the distance. After seeing the emergence of three powerful culprits, Lei Luo saw the black knife among the three culprits at first sight. As the original death god, the last villain boss in the Hell chapter, Lei Luo still has some understanding of the black knife. In the original work, the black knife, first disguised as a not powerful culprit, rescued the protagonist's sister by means of a conspiracy design, won the protagonist's favor, and then led the protagonist into hell step by step, and repeatedly guided the protagonist and the first to appear. The villain Yuhi Lien hands-on. And at the last moment of the battle between the two sides, because he was dissatisfied with Yuhi Lien's inability to force out the true strength of the protagonist, he had to show his true colors. With just one blow, he defeated Yuhi Lien, who was full of power, from the front, and even hit Yuhi Lien. When he died, he had to go to the bottom of hell to experience torture and then be resurrected. Then he fought with the protagonist, and even forced the protagonist to use the bull's head blur. You know, Bullhead Blind easily defeated Ulquiorra's super state, who ranked 4th in the top 10. However, even in the state of the protagonist Bullhead, he couldn't defeat the Black Knife, and the Black Knife even used that power to cut off the chains on his body. It's just that when there was only the last hell chain left on the Black Knife, the meaning of hell was inserted horizontally. In order to prevent the chains on the Black Knife from being cut off, he had to hand over his power to the protagonist, which was barely buried. Black Knife. But now, it is such a guilt who knows how to hide himself and is super powerful, but stands in front of Lei Luo like an ordinary guilt, and judging from his appearance, even if he is the follower of the other two guilders around him, it does not count excessive. I don't want to talk nonsense. Cut the chains of hell on us. When Zilei spoke, he was extremely arrogant, and the purple thunder and lightning continued to wander around his body, with an attitude of taking action if he didn't agree. Chapter 359-Gates of Hell. Zilei's attitude is extremely arrogant, and he wants to restrain Lei Luo with an aura that he is the only one in the sky and the earth. Coupled with the purple thunder and lightning that kept wandering around him, it really gave Zilei a feeling that the god of thunder was alive. But Lei Luo is also very personable. Facing Zilei's arrogant attitude, Lei Luo turned a blind eye and spoke lightly. I want to help you break the chains of hell, as long as you can defeat me, or help me find a way to break the barrier at the bottom entrance of hell. Hey, that being said, then we will inevitably have to fight first. Zilei had a smile on his face, his bellicose temper was aroused, and the purple thunder and lightning on his body won a big victory. The black sword Shira who was standing beside him was forced back into the distance. Boy, I appreciate your attitude very much, then let my uncle Zilei greet you well. When speaking, Zilei suddenly turned into a purple light and disappeared, and only then did the thunder explosion squeak into everyone's ears. Seeing Zilei disappearing, Lei Luo chuckled lightly. Golden light suddenly appeared on his body, and then waved his hand and patted him behind him. Boom! Two bright lights, one gold and one purple, collided behind Lei Luo, and along with the purple electric current scurrying around, Zilei's figure gradually emerged. Yo, it really surprised me that I could see my movements clearly. However, it was just a warm-up just now. Next, if you can still be so relaxed, I will agree to the latter condition on behalf of the Black Blades. With a smile on Zilei's face, he flew back into the air, purple lightning scurrying around his body, scorching the surrounding stone's Jinchuriki column electricity black, and at the same time, purple light was also projected in Zilei's eyes. Judging by the situation, he was already at full power and ready to make more moves. Thundering Judgment. As Zilei shouted loudly, the purple thunder and lightning condensed in his body began to rush into the air, and finally turned into a sharp axe in the sky. The axe handle and axe blade continuously released purple thunder in the air, smashing on the nearby stone Jinchuriki column, and all the stone Jinchuriki column hit were chopped into pieces. Boom boom boom. With the sound of the gravel falling to the ground, Zilei made a downward slashing motion with both hands, and then, the purple sharp axe slashed towards the place where Lei Luo was located with the momentum of smashing the sky, as if Yao Yao was being controlled from a distance. At the same time, Lei Luo also noticed the terrifying power contained in the purple sharp axe. The energy in his body was activated, and the full version of the god, Buddha model was reproduced. The huge size surprised the surrounding Yuhi Lian and others for a while, and they jumped into the distance. Yuhi Lian, what is the origin of this person? This spiritual pressure is even stronger than Zilei. With such a terrifying ability, and he is not wearing a death tyrant outfit, and he has no virtual holes, so he is definitely not a death god or a big virtual, so what is he? Except for Yuhi Lian, the other two saw Lei Luo use the God Buddha mode for the first time, so they were all shocked for a moment by the momentum released by Lei Luo. I don't know his origin. The first time I noticed his existence was that he was using this ability to kill hell. Standing with He Dao, Yuhi Lian did not hide it. In fact, he did not know the true origin of Lei Luo. I heard from the culprits who entered hell later that there seems to be a type of human beings who can use spiritual suns to attack and defend. They seem to be called Quincy. Could this person be a big figure in the Quincy camp? It seems that Quincy and the god of death are deadly enemies. Although our hell is not under the control of the god of death, the god of death and us are not in the right way. I think as long as we can escape from hell, those gods of death will definitely trouble us. Yes, the enemy of the so-called enemy is a friend. As long as the person in front of him is not a god of death, then it is not a loss for us to cooperate with him. Everything is still waiting for him to fight against Zilei. If his strength really exceeds Zilei, then we can recognize him as a companion. Hokage, who had not spoken all the time, looked at Lei Luo, who had turned on the God Buddha mode, and said, there was nothing unusual in his expression. Yeah, just wait for the outcome of this battle to come out. Shira replied in response, and then all three looked at the place where Zilei and Lei Luo were fighting. Seeing that he was in the middle of the giant Buddha, Lei Luo snorted secretly, and then turned his palms to the sky, driving the God Buddha model to make a state of holding the sky. Within the body of the God and Buddha, countless golden lights poured out of Lei Luo's body and gathered in the hands of the God and Buddha. On top of it, he faced the sharp axe that fell in the air without hesitation. Boom! Boom! Zi-la-la-la! Purple thunder and golden light dots overflowed, covering a space of nearly 1,000 meters in an instant. Countless stones Jinchuriki column shattered and collapsed, and some of the culprits who were wandering around were smashed into flesh, which inexplicably became the ghost entered the bottom of hell. In this area, only 3 people, Jinchuriki column, escaped. One Jinchuriki column is naturally the Black Jinchuriki column, the entrance to the bottom of hell, and the 3 are Black Sword, Shira and Yuhi Lotus. The 3 of them saw the opportunity quickly. At the moment when the 2 sides attacked and collided, the strong and powerful ones had already been keenly aware of the terrifying aftermath of the energy, so they used a technique similar to Shunpo to retreat to the distance. Originally, Yuhi Lien wanted to take Taijin and Iluya with him when he was flying back, but his strength was really limited, and he couldn't help the Haidao and Shira beside him. I saw Taijin and Iluya died again in the aftermath of the collision between Lei Luo and Zilei's skills. Fortunately, they were only hit by the aftermath of Lei Luo's attack, otherwise, with Lei Luo's full-strength attack in the God Buddha mode, the chains of hell that bound them would definitely be broken, and at that time, death would really not be able to resurrect. When the aftermath of the energy dissipated, the golden giant Buddha incarnated by Lei Luo still did not dissipate, while the purple thunder in the air seemed a little embarrassed, and the purple thunder on his body was significantly weaker than before. Cough cough cough. It seems that my strength is still not good. If I return to the world in this way, I am afraid I will not escape the fate of being killed. Instead, it is better to improve my strength in hell. Zilei looked at Haidao and the others in the distance, showing a wry smile. This person is very strong. I am not his opponent. We can follow his words and help him find a way to destroy the bottom stone of hell, the Jinchuriki column. With his strength, he will definitely not fool us. As soon as the words were finished, Zilei's body in midair began to slowly dissipate, and the chains tied to Zilei's body suddenly tightened, and then several chains suddenly flashed out in the void, binding Zilei to expose his body. The ghost limbs and waist. Lei Luo took a closer look, and found that he did not know when, behind Zilei, there was a huge portal carved with evil spirits and Shira. At this time, the huge portal had opened a gap, and the chains that suddenly appeared were from the crack of the door. Drilled out. Gateway to hell. Yuhi Lien in the distance exclaimed, as if she saw something she couldn't believe. That's why I said that you are not qualified to bargain with us. When you die, will the gates of hell appear? Seeing Yuhi Lien's appearance, Shira showed a mocking expression. Later, with Shira's explanation, Lei Luo realized what this phenomenon represented. This kind of situation only occurs when the blamer's strength reaches a certain level. Like Black Saber and Shira, this phenomenon also occurs when they die. This seems to be a recognition of the strength of the powerful blamer from hell. Wait for my resurrection. Come back alive. Zilei's voice was intermittent, and he was finally pulled into the gate of hell by several chains. From where, he would re-enter the bottom layer of hell to experience all kinds of destruction until resurrection. Chapter 360 _ Clothes. Next, with Shira's explanation, Lei Luo's understanding of the hell in the God of Death deepened a lot. There have been 2 ways to enter the bottom of hell since ancient times. One is the black stone Jinchuriki column that Yuhi Lien brought Lei Luo to find. This method is the way for ordinary culprits and the most weak culprits to enter the bottom of hell. The people killed by the meaning of hell are all bound by the chains of hell in their souls, so after death, there will be some kind of law that pulls them through the jet black stone Jinchuriki column into the bottom of hell to accept various inhuman tortures. That kind of feeling that life is not as good as death will gradually collapse the mind of the blame, but if the blame can resist the unforgettable punishment, it can release part of the spiritual power hidden in the soul, then, the blame will also have the god of death and the virtual. The power of. However, this kind of spiritual power awakened by external force cannot be improved through cultivation after awakening. It can only be increased by constantly experiencing the torment at the bottom of hell. The more you experience, the spiritual power hidden in the soul will awaken also the more. Time and again, the pain is too much to die, and the death is the only way to improve the strength of the blame. It is also the only reason why Yuhi Lian's strength is not comparable to Haidao and others. He is afraid of death, and even more afraid of experiencing that kind of pain and torture. However, after the guilt person's strength reaches a certain level, the dark stone Jinchuriki column will not be able to tolerate the passage of the guilt person's spiritual power. At that time, the gate of hell will appear in the place where the spiritual force is too strong to pass through the black stone Jinchuriki column. Behind the culprit, use more chains of hell to lock the awakened spiritual power in the guilt person's soul, and then pull him to the bottom of hell through the gate of hell. Moreover, the gate of hell is very special. Every time these culprits with powerful spiritual power pass through the gate of hell, a trace of their soul will be wiped away. Therefore, although Haidao and others are no longer afraid of various punishments at the bottom of hell, they will not automatically seek death after all. Except for the already crazy Zile, the two of them are not a last resort, and generally they will not seek death by themselves. Shira said everything he knew about the gate of hell, and then looked at Lei Luo. We agree to your latter condition and help you find a way to destroy the Jinchuriki column enchantment of the jet black stone. At that time, you will help us break the chains of hell on your body. When Shira spoke, the scar on his face twisted and twisted, looking a little terrifying. No problem. Lei Luo glanced at the gate of hell that had not disappeared, and readily agreed to Shira's proposal. In the world of death, he felt that it was better to have some helpers. How long does it take for the gates of hell to appear once and then disappear? Lei Luo pointed to the gate of hell in the void. Although the gate of hell has been closed at this time, it looks like it will not disappear and become invisible for a while. It depends on the strength of the culprit who is pulled closer to the door. If it is Zile, I am afraid it will take nearly 10 minutes to disappear. Shira thought for a while and said uncertainly. Because every time the gate of hell appears and disappears at a different time, he can't tell him an exact time. Understood. Lei Luo understood, and after instructing Haidao and others to find a way to break the barrier as soon as possible, his figure flashed, and he came to the front of the gate of hell. Standing in front of the gate of hell, Lei Luo could feel a power as deep as an abyss. Even with Lei Luo's current state, he felt frightened. A sense of powerlessness was born from the bottom of Lei Luo's heart. Facing the void in the doorway, Lei Luo actually gave birth to an irresistible feeling. It's just a door, it can make me feel so powerless. Lei Luo muttered to himself, watching the whole hell from a distance. This portal that exists in the void carries the power of the entire hell. It is the concentration of the power of the entire hell, which is even more terrifying than the meaning of hell. If the meaning of hell has 1 point of power in the whole hell, then the gate of hell is the embodiment of having 10 or even 20 points of power in hell. It's no wonder that the god of death does not dare to interfere in the affairs of hell. This kind of power, even the captain of the god of death, Yamamoto Motoyuki Shigekuni, may be difficult to compete with. Facing the gate of hell, Lei Luo will inevitably compare it with the strongest god of death in the anime, the captain of the god of death, and the old man Yamamoto. However, because the old man Yamamoto has never done his best in the anime, Lei Luo can only roughly guess some results. Suddenly, Lei Luo had the idea to try the gate of hell. In the animation, it seems that the protagonist travels between the world and hell through the gate of hell, and Lei Luo has nothing to do in hell now. Even if there is something wrong, it is much easier than Lei Luo to deal with the culprits such as He Dao. As soon as this idea appeared, he couldn't hold back any longer. Turning his head, Lei Luo instructed Black Saber and the others, asking them to find a way to break the black stone Jinchuriki column barrier in hell at any time. After that, Lei Luo began to continue the power in his body. After a while, the energy was activated, and a golden ball of light slammed into the gate of hell. Standing not far away, He Dao and others were shocked when they saw that Lei Luo actually launched an attack on the gate of hell. They thought that Lei Luo was trying to blow open the gate of hell, and then let him pass through and enter the bottom of hell on his own. He shouted, "Right now. Don't waste your efforts, the gate of hell is like the jet black Jinchuriki column, and no one can pass through except for the blame." They are also kind, but they misunderstood what Lei Luo meant. But Lei Luo didn't bother to explain that when the ball of light hit the gate of hell, there was an explosion, and the gate of hell didn't respond at all as Lei Luo expected. "Can't you?" Lei Luo was a little frustrated. The gate of hell could not be opened. Then his idea of leaving hell and going to the present world, Jingling Court and even the virtual circle of the world of death could not be realized. "There's one more thing, maybe it's useful." With a thought, Lei Luo thought of a prop he once obtained, perhaps that holy garment could allow him to pass through the gate of hell. When he thought of it, he did it. Lei Luo did not hesitate, and when his thoughts flashed, the holy robe of Hades was draped on Lei Luo's body. A faint black air overflowed from the Pluto robe and quickly flowed all over Lei Luo's body. At this moment, a systemic voice sounded in Lei Luo's heart. "Ding dong, an emergency is detected, activate the mission, escape from hell." Escape from hell. Hades' holy clothes appeared in hell and attracted the attention of the will of hell. The will of hell distributed all over hell will rush to the host's location within 10 minutes to kill and attack the host. The host must escape from hell as soon as possible to avoid the cloth of Pluto was obtained by the will of hell, and thus the Lord of Hell, Pluto was resurrected. Cow. System, what the hell is this mission? Who is Hades? Why don't I remember that there is such a #1 character in the Shinigami anime? Lei Luo was surprised. This Pluto battlesuit in Saint Seiya has nothing to do with the god of death. He just took it out to try it, but it actually triggered a hidden mission. Host, it's very troublesome to explain this matter, why don't you run away first? When you're free, I'll explain it to you slowly. The system's voice sounded in Lei Luo's heart, a little gloating and a little triumphant.